Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. The Black of 3 a.m. My favorite time of the day is 3 a.m. Why? You might ask. Well, the answer is quite simple, but the answer is quite complicated. You'll understand in time. All we have is time, especially at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. is for the people. A heaven and a hell that works hand in hand. Most are sleeping by 3 a.m., the normal practice. That's not the true 3 a.m., though, not in the slightest. 3 a.m. is uneasy breathing as you wake from a nightmare, alert and ready for danger, before you realize it cannot cross the plains into reality. It existed, but the silence that 3 a.m. offers you reminds you it is no longer real. It was real, but it's gone. Maybe it'll be back, but not now. Not at 3 a.m. However, for some, it's far too real, far too close. And it's right there. 3 a.m. is there to support them, though. The black filled with cloud from the moon. It makes the lights we use seem so bright, makes every step seem too loud. Yet, it is perfect. 3 a.m. is technology-lit rooms. It's for the gamer who has yet to quit their endeavors, with softly pressed keys and hushed voices. It's for those who the 3 a.m. favors, letting the time wash by as they hope for sleep, reprieve, something. It rarely comes. They hate the 3 a.m. 3 a.m. is for bright white lights of shops that seem amiss in the black of night. The people inside always vary, but not all of them want to be there. Not all of them like that side of 3 a.m. It's filled with soft chatter, or more often, no chatter. A silence that booms, that ticks on by. The people all have reasons for being there. Some can't sleep as a duty to their family, to travel within the black of night, to lessen their family's load. Some can't sleep because of what sleeping means for them, the horror it brings along, again and again. Then there are those that brave the 3 a.m. for something go insignificant as money. The cashier, who experiences the full blunt of how slow 3 a.m. can be. The man with a gun, he's the most desperate, but he knows how bad the 3 a.m. can get. The officers, tired, exhausted, but they have a job to do. 3 a.m. is terrifying. It's black, black, black. It's lonely. It's scary. There are things that happen at 3 a.m. in back alleys and bar bathrooms. 3 a.m. teaches you just how horrible the world is, how unmerciful it is. I think 3 a.m. depends on the people. It's made for the people. 3 a.m. is the time where no one judges, where people can be their truest selves, for best or for worse. 3 a.m. is like the sky, the night sky. It's black, black, black. That is it. It's darkness, and darkness, and it swallows up everything. 3 a.m. is like the sky, bright and full of stars, all so far away. The sky is darkness, 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 but it allows us to see, to truly see what surrounds us. It shows us the stars from so far away, burning and burning away, until you realize that we can only see what the stars once were, a bright light before it burns out. 3 a.m. is for loss, for quiet sobs and silent wailing. It's for time to stop, to let reality hit you head on. 3 a.m. is for selfish, hateful crying over losses you never used to think you had to prepare for. 3 a.m. is for pain, for bubbly and outgoing people to let their feelings take control, to lose the mask they present the world. It's a time for red to meet bathroom tiles. It's a time for young people to fly. It's time for pain. 3 a.m. is pain, and it doesn't know anything else. 3 a.m. is for love, for heart-to-heart chats on top of bridges, or whispered phone calls under blankets. 3 a.m. is for wrapping wounds you shouldn't have made, but knowing they will worry your friend, so hiding them is a priority. 3 a.m. is for promises. A text that says you'll love them forever. A voice message saying it's not their fault, never their fault. Sometimes it's promising them unconditional love, and sometimes it's promising them more time. 3 a.m. is mysterious like that, despite its flaws. I love 3 a.m. I recognize it for what it is. It's a time to rest, to scream, to cry, to mourn. But it's also a time to talk, to connect, to know you aren't alone. 3 a.m. is peaceful. 3 a.m. is awful. It gives, but then it takes. 3 a.m. is where I met you for the first time. On the very bridge I wouldn't leave, I met you. We spoke of 3 a.m. together under the moonlight. We spoke of 3 p.m. as well. 3 p.m. caused your 3 a.m. After all, 3 p.m. was something that took a long time to come for you. But once it was there, you would savor it, even if only for a moment. You spent your days wishing for 3 p.m. Because if 3 a.m. was for life to pass, 3 p.m. was for school to pass. Then you spoke of such unfairnesses that were never righted once 3 p.m. came for you. The aftermath of 3 p.m. We both knew that 3 a.m. was your only reprieve of the day. And yet you decided that 3 a.m. was worth dealing with what surrounded 3 p.m. It wasn't my first 3 a.m., but it was yours. So, we talked and talked and talked. I managed to stop your plans. Each night you came, and each night I stopped you. Each night I could stop you. Your 3 p.m. never got any better. I knew that. I knew that. I knew that. Your 3 a.m.s got so regular. We got so regular. Then we got better. Or did we? Was I just imagining that? I saw you smile more. Soft and so vulnerable. You gave me your soul, whispered every secret. And yet, you were my sister, my little baby sister. Not by blood, not by name, but by 3 a.m. whispers. You were blood in ways that mattered. Shared blood-splattering pavements and matching bruises from after our 3 p.m. You were my 3 a.m. You made my 3 p.m. bearable, and I returned the favor as much as I could. Little sister, you were so little. We were far too young. I broke our promise. First, it was selfish, foolish, and absolutely monstrous of me. You weren't there. You didn't need our 3 a.m. I slipped. I'm sorry. So sorry. I knew there would be consequences. When you came to our spot on the abandoned bridge, the next 3 a.m., oh, I tried to hug you, tight as you wailed, pulling you into a cold embrace. It was no use, though, no matter how tight I held you, no matter how much I loved you. I failed you, my dear little sister. You were the only person to find my body, and I, yours. The Portrait of Silence. Clara was 35 when she inherited the crumbling countryside estate of Chateau des Ombres, a legacy from a great aunt she barely remembered. The news arrived like an omen, slicing through the fog of her post-heartbreak haze, offering an escape from the echoes of a life she no longer wished to inhabit. The estate was a relic of another time, its walls cloaked in dust and draped with faded, peeling wallpapers. But amid the fading grandeur, one thing stood out. A painting in the dining room, unnervingly lifelike, depicting a woman in 17th century attire. A woman who looked eerily like Clara herself, dark eyes to knowing. A face both foreign and familiar. She reached out without thinking, tracing her fingers over the delicate oil strokes. A chill seeped into her skin. She had never been the type to have doppelgangers or be mistaken for someone else. Yet, as she stared at the unsettling realism of the portrait, she wondered, was her face simply ordinary or disturbingly unique? At first, she dismissed the unease. She attributed the odd sensations, the dizziness, the light-headed drift she felt in the dining room, to exhaustion or stress. The house was ancient, creaking with history, and her rational mind clung to explanations. But as weeks passed, the feeling intensified. The air in that room thickened. Her unease grew stronger every time she walked by the portrait. The painting seemed to shift when she wasn't looking. A flicker in the eyes, a whisper of movement in the curls of painted hair. And at night, as she started hearing murmurs in the darkness, indecipherable and persistent, she began to fear that she was truly losing her mind. She sought answers, but the staff who had served her great-aunt Serafina knew little. The painting had always been there, an intrinsic part of the house. Frustrated, Clara turned to Serafina's belongings, rummaging through drawers and cupboards until she found an old, leather-bound notebook buried in a wooden chest. She flipped through brittle pages filled with lists and recipes until a single entry stopped her cold. She waits in the canvas. She watches. That night, a storm raged. Rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled through the halls. Sleep was impossible. The words from Serafina's notebook burned behind her eyes. Before she knew it, she was standing before the painting, breathless, pulse hammering. She reached out, fingers trembling, and scratched at the surface. The paint peeled away in thin layers, revealing another portrait beneath. The same elaborate clothing, the same pose, but the face was different. A stranger's. She could swear the figure in the painting smiled, briefly, impossibly. The grin was too wide, stretching just beyond the limits of the face. Too sudden, as if it had flickered into existence rather than emerged naturally. A grotesque mimicry of human expression. She blinked rapidly, her breath catching, as though clearing her vision might erase the horror. When she looked again, the smile was gone. A wave of nausea hit her. Staggering back, she felt a weakness grip her limbs. Panic drove her to action. At dawn, she reached out to an art historian she found online. Dr. Theodore Valls arrived at Château des Ombres 2 days later. He was a man of careful precision, his salt and pepper hair constantly pushed back, as if keeping stray thoughts in place. His initial response to her frantic message had been one of polite disinterest, until he saw the attached image. He recognized the woman at once, Isabella de Loria. By morning, he was at Château des Ombres, his presence sharp against the house's faded grandeur. "This is Alessandro di Rossi's work," he murmured, eyes narrowing in fascination. "An original, but This isn't possible. What isn't possible? Clara's voice was taut. He turned to her with a tense expression. Isabella was the only daughter of a powerful aristocratic family from southern Europe. She was painted by nearly all the great artists of her time. She was around 14 when she first posed for a portrait and vanished at age 22. No one knows exactly what happened to her, though there are many tales. But here, he continued, she looks older, much older. Clara led him to the torn fragments of the topmost layer, revealing the face that had been painted over. She looked a lot like me, she whispered, he words feeling absurd even as she begged them. Her voice wavered, caught between disbelief and a creeping certainty she wished she could ignore. Dr. Valtz exhaled sharply. The painting was altered, but why? And by whom? As they dug into history, the truth unfurled like a nightmare. The tale of Isabella's disappearance had long been attributed to a commoner's obsession. A man who had watched her from the shadows, consumed by an infatuation that festered into madness. When she refused his advances, he took her. She was hidden away, tortured, broken. Then she vanished. Her body was never found, Dr. Valtz said, running a hand through his hair. But if this painting was done later, if Didi Rossi painted her again, aged, changed, then... He hesitated. Then he must have known what became of her, Clara finished. Days of relentless research followed. They sifted through forgotten archives, scoured letters written in fading ink, and pieced together fragments of records long buried in the estate's library. Dr. Valtz reached out to colleagues, historians, and experts in restoration. It was in an obscure 17th century art treatise that they found mention of a certain Didi Rossi portrait. One never exhibited, one whispered about in hushed tones, rumored to hold something more than just pigment and canvas. There was never a commoner lurking in the shadows. The story had been a fabrication, a convenient myth. In truth, Didi Rossi had never been commissioned to paint Isabella. He had offered his services for free, captivated by the chance to immortalize such a remarkable face. An unusual gesture for an artist of his stature. His fascination began as artistic admiration, but soon it twisted into something else. He became obsessed, haunted by her beauty, unable to capture it to his satisfaction. When Isabella sat for him, the proximity consumed him. He had to be near her. He had to possess her. She was never seen again. Several years later, Isabella succumbed to the horrors she endured in De Rossi's grip. Unable to let her go, he took her blood and mixed it with his red paint, binding her essence to the canvas. He had painted her into permanence, attempting to capture what was left of her before it faded completely. The painting had fed on those who gazed too long, who felt its pull. A cycle of replacement, over and over. Clara felt the truth settle deep in her bones. Dr. Valls turned to her, something dark flickering in his gaze. We must destroy it. They worked beneath the shroud of midnight, the flickering firelight casting restless shadows against the walls. The painting resisted, its surface trembling, as if something within fought desperately to hold on. Flames licked at the edges, hesitating, as if repelled. Then, with a sudden burst, the fire consumed the canvas, curling the centuries-old paint into ash. A wave of energy rippled through the room, dense, suffocating. And then, a scream, high, raw, inhuman, tore through the air, reverberating through the walls before fading into an eerie silence. Silence. A faint shimmer lingered in the air, barely perceptible, as if resisting the finality of destruction. For a fleeting moment, Clara thought she saw the embers pulse. Not with fire, but with something else she couldn't explain. The house exhaled. The weight pressing against Clara's chest lifted. When the last ember died, only ash remained. Leah and Dave arrived early at Chateau des Ombres, barely containing their excitement at finally purchasing their dream home. By the time the real estate agent arrived and began unlocking the heavy front doors, they had already taken in the surrounding land, giddy with possibility. They had heard about the disappearance of the previous owner, a woman named Clara. The house had been unoccupied since. Eagerly, they explored the dim hallways, the grand staircase, the candlelit chandeliers. Then, in the dining room, they stopped. There, above the fireplace, hung an old portrait. A woman in 17th century attire, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her eyes were dark and deep, her expression impossibly lifelike. Leah frowned, tilting her head. Something about the portrait unsettled her. Not fear, but familiarity, a strange tug in her gut, a whisper of recognition just beyond reach. That's strange. She looks a bit like... She stopped, heart hammering. How exquisite. The woman in the painting did look a lot like Leah, they both agreed, and for the briefest moment, she swore she saw the lips part, forming a sudden, unnatural smile. Behind them, the door clicked shut. Neighbors. It's been so peaceful without tenants in Unit 37. Something about that apartment always attracts such surly people. Loud, rude, unneighborly. This used to be a community. Now it's more of a ghost inn. I liked going to the market first thing in the morning on Thursdays. That's when they deliver the fresh weekly stock, and all my favorite vendors know to save me their best batch. I didn't used to be able to afford this. Strange to think how now that I don't go to work, I am able to spend all this money. But life is in the little things, in plump figs, rich greens, and tomatoes, that smell of being grown in sunny gardens. It's opportune that the school gave me paid leave, just like they did with the teachers. I thought they would send me to work in the next county while the school was renovated. I guess funding was improving. I cleaned up after dinner, freshened up, and went to bed. Or rather, the couch. I've gotten used to sleeping on it after long shifts, having to waitress for a while after work. Ends required meeting for a time, and I would just crash in the living room. Nowadays, it's more comfortable than ever, like a warm cocoon, ready to wrap me up, safe and sound each night. I finally slept like a baby. Then there was a bark, suddenly, in the middle of the night. Loud, sharp barking of a dog. It sounded so close, I thought he was right in the room with me. A cold chill ran throughout my body from how much it startled me. I felt my heart go cold. Must be what a surge of adrenaline feels like. I would have thought it would be a hot flash, but I felt frozen. Listening more carefully, I realized it was coming from Unit 37. I didn't see anybody move in. Why is there a dog? Am I hearing it wrong? Drowsiness was overtaking me again. Once my body realized it wasn't in imminent danger. Maybe it's for the best, I thought, and laid back down to sleep. It was a sunny August day. I've gone to feed the ducks at the park pond. It was only 10 a.m., but the heat was already scorching. Right at the entrance of my old, derelict-looking building, I've come across them. 2 strong men in white polo shirts, carrying boxes inside. Movers. I didn't speak to my neighbors. Or they didn't speak to me, really. It's useless being friendly to faceless people who look through you. Everyone has enough on their minds to care about anybody else if they can help it. So I don't know anybody here anymore, and I don't mind if it stays like that. At least there was no ruckus. Nobody made problems. I can live with that. As I climbed the stairs to my 4th floor, I saw that my assumption was right. There were a few empty units that anybody could be moving into. Of course, it had to be the Unit 37, right next to me. Then I heard it again. The piercing noise. Barking. Their door was open. The movers going in and out, diligently filling the space, I presume. And my mind seemed to fill just the same. Who were these people? Will the dog bark now, all the time, and disturb my peace? A young woman, maybe late 20s, with wavy brown hair appeared, with the dog on a leash, instructing the movers how she'll be back soon. She gave me a curt nod and swooshed beside me. All right, just the girl. Maybe she's a student or just a young woman finding her feet on her own. If the dog keeps being loud, I'm sure she won't mind if I talk to her about it. It looked like a young dog. It could learn to behave. In the afternoon, everything changed. He came home, too. The boyfriend. I should have supposed that she had a boyfriend. She was young and beautiful. Why wouldn't she? Why he had to be insufferable that I had no answer to. Days that followed passed in turmoil. I am aware it sounds like an exaggeration. They had the right to move in there. They had the right to make life noises, to be. I was the one who had to endure it. I heard every step, every clink of the silverware, every bathroom visit, the TV, and the bedroom. And most of all, the arguments. I had the urge to go to the hardware store and ask to have my walls insulated. I think I could even afford it, but I kept thinking it would be too extreme. They were just a messy young couple. Nobody is perfect. I just wish I didn't have to witness it. On top of everything, it was the dog. If it wasn't for the dog, I think I could have gotten used to the other noises. But the damn animal barked all day and all night. Not all the time, obviously. Just enough to constantly remind you he was there. That they were there. What bothered me the most is that nobody seemed to care at all. As if nobody else in the entire 5-story building with over 30 units could hear him, except me. Did nobody else wake up at 3 a.m. each night when the damn thing shouted? That's how it sounded like, as if he was shouting at someone. Sometimes I had a feeling he was angry at the boyfriend, which is when I sympathized with the animal a bit. I, too, sometimes want to bark at the vile man, but who was he mad at in the middle of the night? When he barked at those times, it felt like he was angry at me, and I hated him for it. It was a Thursday. I have just gotten back from my farmer's market stroll. I never knew when they'd be home. They didn't seem to work a normal job. They'd be home at odd hours, and then gone at even stranger ones. Did they even work at all? Who paid for everything? They never seemed to argue about money. I could hear shouting from the corridors, climbing the stairs. The smell of weed was forever permeating the inside of the building. I detested the smell, but it was simply one more thing I just had to accept and learn to live with since they moved in. I've called the police 12 times in total so far. Loud music, partying, drugs, the dog. The police would come. They would get quiet and not answer the door. The police would leave. That was the extent of the law protection this country provided. Not that I put my faith in them. It was simply the only thing I could do. I tried ringing them, hoping to talk. He would curse at me through the door, and I would run back to my apartment. It was cowardly. At least that's how I felt when I did it. I just don't know what else to do. My entire existence was upended by them. They consumed me. My every waking moment, they made me think of themselves. They woke me up to remind me they were there. I had no escape, no peace, and there's always the dog. Sometimes I think he must feel the same way I do. He too is trapped with them. He can't leave. He can't even pee if they don't feel like getting up and taking him outside. One time, I heard the boyfriend hit him. He must have done his business inside. I pitied him, and I hated him all the same. Today, the dial got turned up a notch. Maybe the pot of gold they've been living off of had run dry. Maybe she cheated. Maybe he had built enough frustration to take it out on her as well. Plates were shattering as I quickly unlocked my door. I dumped my things in the kitchen, and without thinking, on instinct, went to call the police. That's what I was hurrying to do, without even realizing. As it was ringing, I could hear her cry and beg him to stop. Stuff was flying, hitting walls and probably hitting her too. 911. What's your emergency? Yes. Hello. I'm calling about my neighbors. Ah, Ms. Mazzaro. Is it the dog again? Excuse me? You are Miss Mazzaro at Fair Corner 11, correct? Yes. I have you on record here. You have issues with your neighbors. So I only asked if it was the dog again. Isn't that neat? No, it is not the dog. Well, it's the human dog, that bastard of hers. He's beating her. I can hear it through the wall. He's hurting her. There's stuff flying all right, ma'am. We'll send someone over to check on the situation. There is nothing to check. You need to hurry. He's hurting her. He could kill her. Do you hear me? Yes, ma'am. I've already told you. I've sent someone over. Just sit tight and try not to worry. He hung up the phone. Besides a few doors opening to snoop and promptly closing when their suspicions were confirmed, nobody did anything. He continued to scream and hit her. She continued to sob and mumble. Was she explaining herself? Begging? Soothing him? I couldn't tell. Not by her words, at least. I just knew. I didn't even realize I'd been sitting at my dining table, clutching the phone, listening, that 3 hours went by. I got startled from my stupor by the doorbell outside, and I glanced at the clock, noticing the time. That's how long it took them. They were at their door. I wonder what they'll do if he doesn't open the door. Will they just walk away like they did all the other times? The lock clicked a few times, and I could hear her voice. I knew it to be hoarse, but to a stranger, she sounded normal, chirpy even. Sorry to bother you, miss. We had a complaint from a neighbor. They heard some shouting. It seemed like they were worried for your safety. Is everything all right? Really? Oh my. Well, I'm fine. I don't know what it could be. Oh my God. Yes. Oh no. I feel so bad. It's probably the dog. My boyfriend came home. He was away for a few days, and Loki got a little too excited. He's been jumping all over the place. So the dog was making the noise? Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I just remembered. He knocked over this vase right when Danny came home. Right, babe? Danny. I've never heard his name before. Doesn't suit him. He looked more like a Brad or Kyle. Hello? I thought it was the takeout. What's happening? I heard him ask the officer. We're just here to make sure everyone is all right here. There were some noise complaints. Oh my God, again? Some people really don't have a life of their own, do they? They all chuckled. The cop, Danny, the girl that was sobbing all afternoon, all laughing at me. Well, I can see there's no problem here. Just try to keep the noise down at night. And don't let us spoil your afternoon. Have a good one, guys. She lied. What hurt the most was the familiarity of it. I remember lying, too. It seemed that, to the world, my lies were more believable than the truth. She was reminding me, I'm not the only one. They seemed to be more quiet after that. He left and came back late. She only went out briefly to walk the dog. The next day, I woke up with the intense urge to go to the park. I needed to see the pond. I dreamt of the water, the peaceful green vastness. My ducks. Do they remember me? I bet they would like anybody who brings seeds and lettuce, not just bread. I had to go to them. Gathering my things, I went to leave, locking up my door. She just got out too, at the same time. Our eyes locked. She looked swiftly away, but not soon enough. I saw the bruise covered by a thick layer of foundation. It was so ridiculously obvious, it made me think, did people really not see? Or did the covering up signal to them, it's okay, I want you to not care. I want you to not ask me about it. Look away. I couldn't look away, because I now knew. I was sure that cop knew too. Hello? Oh, hi, she answered reluctantly. Off for a walk? Yes. Sorry, by the way. Loki barks at night. I know. I can't get him to be quiet. He notices the pigeons sleeping on the ledges of windows and goes bonkers. Yes, we can talk about the dog, but we can't talk about the man. I'm going to the pond. I feed the ducks sometimes. Would you like to come with me? Oh, that's so sweet. But no, sadly, as I said, Loki only sees birds as snacks. She looked like a girl when she smiled. I see. I could come to tea later. If you're not busy, I'd be delighted. I remembered I had no tea at home. So instead of the pond, I went to the store to get some. The ducks can wait. I made them no promises. I sat around anxiously, waiting for her. Will we be honest? Will she even show? The doorbell rang. We sat, sipping my new rose and hibiscus tea. She chatted about looking for work. She had a degree in economics, a very male-dominated field. She didn't have any girlfriends. She was isolated. So much so, I gathered, that the loneliness made her befriend her strange, middle-aged neighbor who called the police on her all the time. So, your boyfriend works then? I pried. No, actually. He didn't go to school, so he has some savings from a previous job. We decided to live off of those while I look for a good job. We're thinking maybe when we have a family, I could then stay home and he would go back to work. That way, we both have some free time. You expect to have free time when you have a baby? I blurted. I shouldn't rock the boat. There was another, more pressing matter I wanted her to hear from me. I guess you're right. I hadn't thought of it that way. Well, however it ends up being, we're both unemployed for now. Why isn't he looking for a job, then? Same as you. I told you. He wants to have some free time while he can, to find himself. He did work his butt off for 4 years, you know. He earned it. Do you think he earned the right to do that too? She instinctively covered up her cheek with her hand. You see it? Anyone with a pair of eyes can see it. He's not always like that, you know. He's actually really loving. And funny. He hits you. She paused. Yes, you know you need to leave him. I can't. He pays the rent. You'll find a job. You don't need him. I can't. I held her hand in mine. She jolted at my touch, yanking her hand away, with tears in her eyes, looking almost scared. I'm sorry. I don't mean to upset you. She just stared at me with a strange expression. I know I shouldn't be saying things like that. You don't know me, and you don't need advice from a woman you just met. Why are your hands so cold? It's so warm in here. My hands? I was perplexed by her question. That's what she's focusing on now? The temperature of my hands? The souk stared to bark from the inside of her apartment. She sighed. I should go. I think I even left the window open. One of these days, he'll actually catch a pigeon or something. Our discussion now completely deflected to unimportant matters once again. I had to let it go. All right. Tell Loki I said he needs to be a good boy. I will. The boyfriend must have come home, and the dog got out of their apartment. Before he could catch him, he ran inside my own as she went to leave. Loki, come back. They both went after him. Loki made a straight line for the door of my bedroom, barking insistently and pawing at the doorknob. They almost dragged him away when he made the final jump, opened it, and nosed his way in. He barked and barked and barked. I felt like it lasted for hours. I just kept watching the two, standing at the wide open double door, not turning to me, not calming down the dog. They just stood and stared. I walked slowly closer, with each step being more certain of what I'll find. Peace overcame me. Relief. Joy. I cackled. Full chest, lungs, and heart cackle. It was real. It was. It happened. I did it. They jolted at the sudden noise, finally turning to me. What did you do? She stuttered. The two blackened, withered figures could be seen on the once pristine bed. The one on the right wore my favorite outfit, my green dress, and my mother's dragonfly brooch. Loki, no doubt, found his kindred, too, by the closet. I did what I had to do. Finally, for a time, I got to be free. Tears escaped her eyes. "I'm so glad I got to meet you in the end," I told her. "I took my bag. I prepared earlier this morning. Take care." I smiled. "I think I'll go to the pond now." Yes, I'd like that. Cornflower blues. It always came at night. That night was no different in that respect. I had heard it lumbering around outside as the sun disappeared from the sky. The sound of scraping metal as it circled the house. I had always fought the urge to look directly at it, instead only catching glimpses of it in the shadows. If I focused, I could shuffle it to the back of my mind, like a deck of cards. But those lonely hours, when night approached and my mind was no longer engaged by work or meaningless check-ins with the few friends I managed to keep, were the hardest. At first, the check-ins came daily, then weekly, then monthly, then whenever they had a free second to pity me via text. "Hey girl, you doing okay? Do you need anything?" I don't think any of them would have known what to do had I answered yes. I couldn't blame them though. Life goes on. For some people, at least. But anyway, the difference in this particular night was that I had decided to allow my mind to go to that place. No shuffling this time. Instead, accepting the cards that were dealt. Sometime after my 5th or 6th glass of Pinot Noir, I turned my phone off, placed it on the end table next to a stack of unpaid bills, pushed the dirty clothes to one end of the couch, and sank into the other end. Alone. It had been 12 months to the day since I lost my sweet boy with the cornflower blue eyes. Cornflower Connie, as I called him. Parents should never have to bury their children. Todd was completely shattered. He left me this past June. I had dropped to a rail-thin 99 pounds, and he said he couldn't stand to see me hurt any longer. I tried everything: counseling, group, rehabilitation programs, but everyone grieves differently. I guess Todd had to grieve alone. At some point, I nodded off, waking only to an unsettling silence, quickly realizing the noise was gone. I wiped the drool from my chin, licked my cracked lips, and decided to check it out. With my body bladed to the window, I pulled the curtain to the side and saw it standing under the dim porch light. The back of my neck tingled, and my heart thumped in my chest, acting like my body's panic alarm. I would normally just do a quick look. Instead, for the first time, I stayed. I studied it. Its skin was the color of burnt charcoal, and its back curved like a question mark. It shifted under the light, revealing a Grinch-like face that scrunched even more as it smiled at me, like a mischievous feline. But there, above the unnerving grin, I saw them, those familiar eyes. My cornflower Connie had come home. All I had to do was focus on those eyes. "Don't you want to be with me again, Mommy? Let me in, and you can hold me again." just like you used to. What was I supposed to do? Of course, I wanted to be with him again. It would surely be better than telling myself that the random white blob in the sky actually resembled a heart. A message from my Connie. I love you too. Yeah, you can convince yourself of almost anything if you believe it enough, and if you're sad enough, just like the cardinal that occasionally lands on my fence. Good morning, Connie. Thanks for the visit. I let him in. His long, rubbery fingers took me by the arm, led me upstairs, never breaking his gaze. Where are we going? I asked, barely a whisper, in what seemed like the first words I had spoken in days. To my room, Mommy. The door creaked open, and the lights came on, bringing the room back to life. I have no idea if I flipped the switch or not. It felt like I had floated up the staircase. The room was just as he left it. COONRD, colorfully stenciled on the blue wall above his big boy twin bed. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sheets and comforter still ruffled from that night, a little over a year ago, when he stumbled into our room just before midnight. Mommy, my chest feels weird, he moaned. After a 104.1 fever, we rushed him to the hospital. My cornflower Connie would never come home again. His fingers rolled up my sleeve and led me to the bed. I pressed his Michelangelo stuffed animal to my face, inhaling deeply, hoping it still held Connie's scent. It didn't. The tears fell, and his grip tightened on my arm, leading me into the bed. He never let go of my arm. Lay with me, Mommy. I climbed in, pulled the covers to my stomach, and rested my head on Connie's pillow. I miss you so much, baby, I yelled through tears, pounding my one free fist on the mattress. I'm here if you keep looking in my eyes. Just then, his eyes flickered, and it, as if I was watching a projection screen. I watched as we took in the afternoon show of the new Spider-Man movie last year. Connie's lap littered with buttery popcorn that missed his mouth, his icy stained lips framing his checkered smile. A flicker, a summer afternoon drive around the neighborhood, blasting random 90s songs. He loved the songs that I grew up on. We would do our absolute worst to sing along. Keep looking at my eyes, Mommy. Just a little bit more until you can hold me again. His grip tightened some more. Another flicker, a lazy Sunday. Me sprawled out on the couch, my Connie's little body slowly rising and falling with my breathing as he naps on my chest. Another second, and I'm yours again. How could I say no? I did what he asked, just a little longer. The avalanche of warmth I felt was euphoric, as if my insides were swaddled in a heated blanket. It was the first semblance of comfort and peace that I hadn't felt since he was actually here with me. I did what he asked. Then I waited. That was 2 days ago, and I don't see my cornflower Connie anywhere. The comfort I had felt the other day dissipated in an instant. I've been patiently waiting, but now I wonder, did it lie? It's so dark here. The chase on the rails. A pre-World War I. Calm masked the coming global upheaval. Amidst this backdrop, a train chugged steadily through the English countryside, its destination, Dover. Aboard the 1914 vessel, a passenger captivated many. The air was thick with a mix of excitement and unease as the train thundered down the tracks, its rhythmic chugging creating a comforting backdrop to the day's unfolding drama. Outside, the view was a mosaic of vibrant green meadows and charming hamlets, smelling fresh earth wafting through the windows, contrasting with arguing the imminent war. Inside the train carriage, the passenger in question sat quietly, their demeanor calm, yet enigmatic. Dressed in a sharp suit and hat, they exuded an air of mystery that drew curious glances from their fellow travelers. The train's rhythmic motion seemed to lull the other passengers into a sense of security. But an aura of intrigue surrounded this particular individual. The landscape outside the window shifted from a bustling cityscape to serene countryside. The enigmatic passenger remained a captivating enigma. Who was this mysterious figure, and what secrets did they carry with them on this fateful journey to Dover? The answers lay shrouded in the depths of their enigmatic presence, waiting to be unraveled by the curious minds on board. As the train neared its destination, the tension on board seemed to heighten, mirroring the growing unease gripping the world at large. Little did the passengers know the events set in motion by this mysterious traveler would soon intersect with the tumult of war, forever altering the course of history. Among the passengers was Mata Hari, the enigmatic Dutch dancer and courtesan who had captivated and charmed the elite of Europe. But her allure had drawn suspicion, and the British intelligence service had dispatched one of their finest, a seasoned spy named Jonathan Hawke, to shadow her every move. As the train pulled away from Victoria Station, Jonathan positioned himself discreetly in the adjoining compartment. His eyes never left the door to Mata Hari's cabin. Dressed in an inconspicuous dark suit, he blended seamlessly with the other travelers, his demeanor calm, but his senses alert. The rhythmic clattering of the train wheels provided a steady soundtrack to the journey. Jonathan's thoughts were as relentless as the locomotive's progress. He knew Mata Hari was dangerous. Her charm and beauty merely veils for her cunning and guile. The British had reason to believe she was ferrying secrets to the enemy, and Jonathan's mission was simple: follow her, gather evidence, and ensure she did not slip through their fingers. In her compartment, Mata Hari appeared unperturbed, gazing out at the passing landscapes with an air of nonchalance. Her elegant attire, a blend of exoticism and European sophistication, further enhanced her mystique. Her eyes, however, betrayed a sharpness, a readiness for the unexpected. As the train approached the coastal town of Dover, Jonathan's instincts heightened. He knew that if Mata Hari were to escape, it would be through the port, where she could easily vanish across the channel to France. He reviewed his plan, every move calculated to counter any strategy she might employ. The train's whistle announced their arrival at Dover. Passengers gathered their belongings, anticipation mingling with the salty sea air. Jonathan observed Mata Hari, who seemed in no rush. Her leisurely demeanor was unnerving, but Jonathan knew better than to underestimate her. At the station, the hustle and bustle provided ample cover for both pursuers and pursued. Jonathan kept a safe distance, blending with the crowd. Mata Hari moved with purpose, her steps leading her inevitably towards the ferry docks. As the crowd surged forward, Jonathan deftly maneuvered through the throng, maintaining his vigil on Mata Hari. His heart pounded, the adrenaline of the chase sharpening his senses. He saw her exchange a quick glance with a man in a gray overcoat, a signal too subtle for most eyes, but not for Jonathan's trained observation. Mata Hari quickened her pace, gliding through the bustling station with the grace of a dancer. Jonathan matched her stride for stride, his focus unwavering. He noticed the man in the gray overcoat shadowing her, and it became clear. Jonathan was not the only one on her trail. The docks were a maze of activity, with ferries preparing for departure and travelers hurrying to embark. Mata Hari headed towards a smaller vessel, its destination marked as Calais. Jonathan felt the tension coil within him. He had to act swiftly to prevent her escape. Just as Mata Hari reached the gangway, Jonathan closed the gap, his hand inching towards his concealed firearm. But before he could make his move, the man in the gray overcoat stepped forward, blocking Jonathan's path. Their eyes locked, a silent recognition passing between the two agents of their deadly game. In a flash, the man drew a weapon, and something forced Jonathan to dive for cover. The crack of gunfire split the air, sending panic through the crowd. With the sight of her bodyguard lying dead with a bullet in the middle of his forehead, Mata Hari, seizing the moment of chaos, darted up the gangway and onto the ferry. Jonathan scrambled to his feet, his gaze fixed on the retreating figure of the dancer, now almost obscured by the fleeing passengers. Desperate, Jonathan sprinted towards the ferry, but it was too late. The vessel pulled away from the dock, the gap between the ship and the quay widening with every second. He watched as Mata Hari stood at the railing, a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips. The sound of the ship's horn echoed through the harbor, signaling its departure. Jonathan's heart sank as he realized he had missed his chance to reach Mata Hari. The image of her standing there, so close yet out of reach, haunted him as the ferry disappeared into the horizon. Despair washed over him as he stood alone on the empty dock, the cold wind cutting through his coat and sending shivers down his spine. The sound of seagulls echoed in the distance, a stark reminder of the solitude that enveloped him. His heart ached with the weight of uncertainty, wondering if this missed connection would be his biggest regret. The memories of their last meeting played like a broken record in his mind, each moment tinged with longing and a sense of unfinished business as he gazed out at the vast expanse of water. He couldn't shake the feeling that something important had slipped through his fingers, leaving him adrift in a sea of what-ifs and maybes. The setting sun cast a golden hue over the horizon, painting a bittersweet picture of what could have been. Those eyes of mine. The machine beeped, boiled and seethed. I pressed the button, and water leaked, filling the cup to its brim. A cup of coffee, pure. I opened the window wide, letting the breeze tingle the fuzz on my nape. Sat beneath it, picked up the cigarette from the ashtray that had burned lonely for so long that the ash stretched from its tip almost to the cotton, forming a bridge undisturbed by its weight. I shook it off and pulled on it. The taste of burned butt dominated the tobacco tang. The coffee cleansed it. Drops from the drizzle intruded on my domicile, enhancing the soothing effect of the wind on the dots they marred. The sun had tucked tail and crept behind clouds. Rest, the doctor had prescribed. Nerves, stretched thin, throbbed in harmony with the rain. Oh, the rain. How could I, Doc? The weather called my name. I donned my shoes and jacket, closed the door, strode down the stairs to the streets. The slabs of cement towered over, reaching for the skies. The drops welcomed me, painting me gently. A ball snuck in, got trapped between my eyes and glasses, while the rest rained down like arrows on a battlefield. People buzzed up and around, busy little bees. Yet, however or whomever I tried to peek at, all that I managed to see was but a blur, mangled by the shower, by the rain, by its tears. They paved a path for themselves, dug ruts on my glasses. My vision failed to pierce. I trailed what I assumed to be their tracks. When one's feet made space for themselves on the puddles as they stepped, and left it vacant when they departed, that's when the ensuing spot got filled with water. It created a momentary footstep. That's what I followed. A fleeting moment, along the restless ponds, vibrating in seclusion from one another. The vista of concrete proved inescapable. For the moment, the puddles were left undisturbed. That's what they showed. A reflection of gray, hubs of broken dreams. The vehicles behaved strangely under the rain. They too beeped, stalled, and buzzed around. The path led me along the blocks, passing from one street to the other. The vistas remained the same. Were they copies of one another? Or was I stuck in place? I lifted my head and flicked the flock of drops off my locks. That was the third bus stop that I approached. The carrier reloaded, its travelers hurrying outside with new ones coming on board. To avoid the crowd, I lingered in my gait, pulled out my pack, and plucked a treat. The way it nested on my lips brought a moment of respite. The lighter struggled, producing sparks, again and again. Yet no flame. The rain dampened both. The bus drove off. I continued my journey with no obstacles in sight, threading the many tracks left behind. Need a light? A question asked from beneath the canopy of the stop. The mess on my glasses had turned to a layer. A coat of mist. A mush of hair, clothes, legs, and arms. And a lighter, lit with a gray-washed flame. I crouched, touched the light, and tasted the smoke. Pulled my head back into the rain. What? You'll just leave? The tender voice continued, anchoring me on the dock. I pondered. Was one cigarette enough? No. I towed 2 butts out of their home and returned the gesture. My glasses slid as I crouched, parked on the peaking bone of my nose. The clouds had slid too, allowing the sun to shoot its beams on the glass walls of the bus stop. Their pallid reflection blinded me, but I felt the pack lighten. The person lagged, suggesting hesitation. Disturbed by the sudden change in the weather, I looked back at the sun, but it was no more. Thicker clouds had settled in. The rain was picking up heat. Don't miss the next one. If you wish to avoid the deluge, that is, I said, stowing the pack into my pocket. The hymning tone concealed a plea behind my ear, maybe one of attention or of interaction. Entertaining these ideas had brought me here, so I failed to see a reason for another attempt. My surroundings grew tired, a waterlogged world crying in its stead. Steps continued. The rain poured. The worse it got, the fewer people brooded. How did I end up here, I wondered, amid this city, amid the crosses of colorless walls, and amid the faceless people? How far had I wandered? How long it had been? I swerved on the road, heading towards the park. An island with different scenery. Or so I thought. The rain had dug its claws here too, washing away all that would help me recall what was. Think of what could have been. Instead, I was forced to watch what is in another gray landscape. The sky's tears battled with the leaves. The branches swung at one another. Fierce battles ensued. The road continued straight up to a fountain. where it diverged and transformed into a circle, and restoring itself back into a straight line, it continued. I sat near the formation, for the trees obeyed the road, and the sky, with its gray clouds, remained visible, and the battles fought turned into echoes from afar. The rain poured, thickening the layering clog on my glasses, changing it with another, never letting them rest. Down it poured. My cigarette had long been extinguished, yet the respite it brought remained all the same. And so, I kept sucking on the wet cotton, lost. I dabbled with questions I knew I shouldn't ask. A man's worst enemy was his own mind. I had hoped for the rain to wash away the colors of my brain too. But they remained, blinking ever so often, showing me what was. My clothes heavy, burdened with the rain, pulled me down on the bench. My hair, too, wet, as if splashed on my scalp. I bit the butt with my teeth and looked above, to the soaring skies. My eyes were protected, so I didn't flinch. Instead, I enjoyed the moment of rain, enjoyed the moment of solitude, the moment of respite. The rivers ran, the fountain spat, and the clouds rumbled. I remained. For how long could I remain? For how long would I? My legs pulled in pain, and noise had settled at the bottom of my feet, a numbing pump. My head ached. I pulled on my dimmed cigarette. In this park, I had hoped to encounter a spark of life. The leaves were falling, the branches were breaking from the wind, and my ankles drowned beneath the rivers. The pouring rain consumed. Hungry, it ate everything. But the pain, my teeth failed to cling on. My mouth gapped. I dropped my companion. It soaked, increased in weight, and sank. What was another lost cigarette in the rinsing sea? And then the red one enters. A great artist once said, "Color. What a deep and mysterious language, the language of dreams." Depending on the situation or distraction, this philosophy unquestionably plays an integral part in Herbert Truelove's meandering existence, floating and gliding from one state of contented, colorful contemplation to the next, regardless of the consequences. It is Tuesday. Spring has just about sprung, and a dapple of weak sunlight is finally threatening to break through the clouds that have been in perpetual domination since last October. At least it seems that way to Herb, who, as we speak, is in a daydream of sorts, caught between the grim reality of his humdrum day job and the fantastical scenes that his mind is playing out to him. Today, softly tinted marshmallow cats and dogs with expertly curated mustaches and jaunty little hats are fleeting across his venturing mind. Everything is and hazy around the edges. The sun's faint rays kiss the scene with hues of pale yellow, blue, and pink. And across the dusty blue sky, cloud-like forms are enticing him away to somewhere far beyond the gray walls of reality, where Herb's flesh and bones exist. True love. Shrill and pointed as ever, the bespectacled and suited Geraldine Ledbetter, a storm cloud personified, marches across the office and places herself between the window and Herb's reverie. She casts the darkest kind of shadow across the desk, perhaps the sort you might encounter in a terrible nightmare. Are the figures for the board meeting ready yet? The words thunder reverberating in Herb's ears. But he is not easily fazed. Herb has learned that it is best to do whatever is asked of him. Herb knows that it's wise to keep his head down and complete his work to an adequate standard so that it attracts minimal attention. Herb knows where his mind would rather be. The mustachioed marshmallow cats and dogs saunter away towards the rapidly graying clouds, and Herb, rubbing his eyes, waggles the gray plastic mouse to motion his laptop back into life. "Half an hour," mutters Herb, as he adjusts himself to the reality that surrounds him. The cats and dogs disappearing into the cloudy horizon. His tired eyes flicker across the incomplete spreadsheet that occupies the screen. Conditional formatting highlights the cells that need to be completed in a garish, bright yellow. As Herb knows from bitter experience, the department heads are notoriously tardy in submitting their month-end figures, and this month is no exception, and that will include the projections for the second quarter. The dark outline of Geraldine Ledbetter demands rather than questions. Of course, around the edge of Geraldine's heavy form, Herb can see a butterfly hovering outside the window, its golden-tipped wings unusually early for the time of year, but splendid all the same as it flutters in the mid-morning light. On my desk by 11 sharp then. Then Geraldine, engulfed within her ominous cloud, rumbles back through the office and is gone. The light resumes its place on Herb's desk, and his pupils contract for a moment. As he refocuses, he watches the butterfly as it continues to dance outside the window, coaxing and tantalizing, almost coquettishly, if a butterfly could assume such a demeanor. "Hey, Herb, look at me." Herb runs his hand over his chin, catching the patch of stubble that he's missed during this morning's shave. The empty yellow cells blink at him. Herb is no fool, of course. He is something of a spreadsheet genius, and all the projections, graphs, and charts will update automatically as soon as he inputs the missing figures. He turns his attention away from the butterfly for a moment and flicks to his emails. Nothing. 5 department heads have still not submitted their figures. Herb detests having to chase them. They make him feel insignificant, as though they have more important things to think about than a few numbers. Numbers that you should bloody well know if you had any clue what you were doing, thinks Herb. The tapping at the window draws his attention away from the screen. The butterfly is still there, and in the distance, pink and blue, marshmallow, cats and dwarfs with mustaches and jaunty hats are bounding along the treetops. The butterfly poses enigmatically on a small branch that grows out of the old brickwork, stretching and twitching its outstretched wings. Herb is so overwhelmingly compelled by the creature that he moves cautiously round to the other side of the desk and crouches down, the thinning fabric of his trousers straining at the knees as he does so. The glass separates his nose from the butterfly by less than an inch. Over the hills and the meadows, golden yellow with rapeseed and sunflowers, far too early for the time of year, but glorious all the same. The countryside is ablaze with color as Herb and the butterfly soar, dipping and flying over the landscape below, hanging on tightly to its wings, delighting in every swirl and swoop. Herb is surprised to see strange markings on the insect, not usual for this type. In between the clouds, the cats and dogs nod and doff their hats as he passes, and Herb strains his eyes against the wind, fascinated by the butterfly, curious to examine more closely its squiggles and shapes. Back at his desk, Herb recalls the markings, which were in fact numbers. 5 of them etched in fine, flowing lines across the butterfly's wings. He opens the spreadsheet and, compelled by something he knows not, he enters the numbers into the bright yellow cells, which immediately reformat to corporate gray. The bottom line updates, the graphs and charts complete. All is done. But the cell containing the overall projection for the next quarter is now red. This doesn't surprise Herb. The second quarter is always like that. So he prints off copies for the board meeting, slides them onto Geraldine's desk whilst she's in the washroom, and disappears for an early lunch. Outside, the sun has burned away the hazy cloud of earlier, and the day promises to be a little warmer than of late. Herb buys a takeaway sandwich and coffee. Then, in the small memorial garden down the road from the office, he finds an empty bench facing the sun. He sips the coffee, letting the warm, milky substance trickle down his throat and warm his insides, the caffeine tingling through his veins. Herb closes his eyes. Blotches of red, orange, and green fill his vision as the light from the sun leaves its mark. The green shapes begin to move in slow, swirling motions, bumping off the red and orange like a crooked kaleidoscope. Herb recalls holding his eye to the brightly decorated tube, turning the colored beads, reflecting in the mirrors. In the distance, his mother is calling him in from the living room to go through to the kitchen for his dinner. The kaleidoscope falls to the floor, and the green swirls fill his vision as a formation of leaves and petals spin clockwise and then anti-clockwise, alternating, until a purple snake pokes its head through the center of the arrangement. It smiles. It's a pleasant enough smile, though perhaps verging on the sinister, and the corners of Herb's mouth twitch slightly. People passing through the memorial garden give him a wide berth. Herb sips the last of his tepid coffee, eats the ham sandwich, which is now lukewarm, and stretches his legs before heading back inside. As he passes the office window, he checks his reflection. Reasonable enough, if a little worn around the edges, but he notices that his shirt looks an odd color. Herb shakes his head. Just the light, and heads back into the office. Herb's stomach sinks as, returning to his desk, he sees the familiar outline of Geraldine against the window. But as he gets closer, he notices an expression on her face that he's never seen before. Not the usual storm cloud, more like a break in the weather, a lightening of the day. There's a faint flush of color to her cheeks, a softening of her usually harsh and critical eyes. Her blouse, usually a nondescript department store shade of grayish beige, now seems to emit a slight hint of pink, not bright enough to be obvious, but just enough to make Herb look twice. "The board meeting went well," she says. The projections were in line with expectations. "Good work, true love," Herb nods, not sure how to respond. She has never called his work good before. Ever. "I need you to run some modeling," she continues. "Future projections, based on recent trends. A few different scenarios. I want to see what we're looking at for the next couple of years." She turns to leave, then pauses. "By the way," she adds, looking Herb up and down in a way that makes him feel like he's transparent, "I like that shirt on you. You had a dark blue one on before, didn't you?" Herb looks down. His shirt seems pale and washed out, and he's not entirely sure what color it had been earlier, his morning routine being somewhat chaotic. The first shirt out of the wardrobe usually suffices. Herb sits at his desk. For a moment, he glances towards the window as temptation draws him to contemplate for just a little while. But Geraldine's demeanor has startled him, setting him off balance. For the first time since starting with the firm, he feels compelled to produce what she wants as accurately and as promptly as he can. Herb exhales slowly and turns to the spreadsheet. Numbers and formulas are a place of comfort and security for him, and he begins to plan out the equations and tables of data that he needs. Everything is mapping into the right place. No errors flash, but his mind is slowly drifting. The warmth of the sun still lingers on his face. The coffee tingles in his bloodstream, and Herb's fingers hover over the keys. The marshmallow cats and dogs have returned. Their sugary bodies bound across a soft, undulating pastel landscape. Their hats perched askew at gravity-defying angles. Herb watches the beautiful hues of the world around them, gentle like childhood dreams. He smiles as they swirl and leap, admiring their peculiar hats and mustaches. Then there's a flicker, and something deeper in his mind stirs. Herb snaps back to the screen. The formatting is wrong. Purple cells. They hadn't been there before. He hadn't formatted them that way. Herb was sure of that. The empty spaces within them pulse ever so slightly, and Herb's stomach tightens as he recalls the numbers on the golden-tipped butterfly. The snake was purple. He tries to remember the patterns. Had there been numbers? Herb leans back in his chair and closes his eyes, trying to recall, attempting to re-summon the lunchtime dream. The marshmallow creatures appear again, bounding across rolling, gentle pistachio fields, warm, comforting, inviting. But that's not what he needs right now. The snake had been different. It had coiled through a spiral of violet and deep shades of green, its smile knowing, its movements slow and deliberate. Herb pushes deeper into the memory, searching for it, feeling the gentle marshmallow dreams resisting, as if trying to keep him away. Then he finds it. The kaleidoscope returns. "Your dinner's ready, Herbert." But the snake slithers from the swirling pattern of leaves, its scales shimmering in purple hues. And there they are, the numbers, etched in golden ink along its back, shifting and twisting as the creature moves. Herb returns to his desk with a jolt. His fingers move quickly before his waking mind erases what he's just seen. And with shaking hands, he enters the snake's numbers into the spreadsheet. The model updates. The figures align. Herb's heart thumps in his chest. The purple cells have turned gray, but he doesn't know what the new snake-derived data means. But when he prints the pages and places them on Geraldine's desk, she looks at him with something close to admiration. "Interesting," she murmurs. Geraldine chews her freshly painted lips as her eyes move across the sheets. "This changes things. Leave this with me, true love." Then a pause as she adjusts the chain of magenta beads that seem to have appeared around her neck. "Thank you." Later in the week, we find Herb reflecting on the events of the last couple of days. He's continually surprised and a little bewildered at the changes he sees in Geraldine's persona, gaining subtle hints of color in both her wardrobe and her demeanor. With every financial forecast or model that she requests, amidst wild daytime dreams and flickering spreadsheets, Herb delivers the goods. He knows he's making a good impression, but his daytime reveries are changing, showing him things he's never seen before, and he isn't sure how he feels about that. The faded and worn knees of his trousers have thinned further, now nearly transparent, and when he catches his reflection in the washroom mirror, the patchy stubble on his chin seems to be developing a rather gray tinge. Herb's comforting daydreams, full of soft and gentle color, seem to come less readily, and the pink and blue creatures keep on vanishing over the darkened horizon. The spring that threatened to flourish just days earlier has retreated back into winter, and a bitter easterly wind whips around every building and street corner. Today, it is Friday, and Geraldine wants the latest figures to review over the weekend. As ever, Herb is on point to deliver. It seems to him that the department heads have faded into obscurity. They approve the files that Herb emails to them without a second glance, and Geraldine continues to be enthralled, enchanted almost, by the tables and charts that Herb sets on her desk at every demand. This morning, Geraldine's blouse is a vibrant cornflower blue, her smile brighter, her voice lighter. She calls Herb into her office. "Herb?" she smiles. "Did she just call me Herb? The board members have noticed your work. They want you to take on some more experimental forecasting." Herb's eyes drift past Geraldine's shoulder. Through the window, he sees a slender man in a tight red suit balancing on the edge of the window ledge. He's grinning at Herb, opening and closing his suit jacket, revealing something, a code perhaps, and then quickly concealing it, smirking as he does so. Behind, in the distance, the soothing colors of pastel fields flicker as marshmallow cats and dogs try to draw Herb's attention. The scarlet character outside the window watches, waiting. "Herb!" Geraldine's voice punctures Herb's distraction. This could mean a promotion, more pay, more prestige. Think about it over the weekend. Herb rattles his head, bringing himself back into the moment. "I'm sorry, Geraldine. It's been quite a week." He looks down at his hand. It looks paler than before, almost translucent under the harsh office lights. He swallows, his throat dry. "I'll get those figures to you this morning, ready for the weekend." The spreadsheet gapes at Herb. It flickers. Cells that were accurate earlier are now showing SRF and other disturbing error codes that Herb has never seen before. Other cells are suddenly formatted in red, their borders animated, serpents slithering around each red cell. Herb looks out of the window across the gray sky, where trees bend and sway in the wind, and litter from the street blows up in gusts. The red-suited man peeps impishly around the corner of the window, just enough that Herb sees his menacing grin. Then he steps fully into view. Herb notices the purple snake wrapped around the man's left leg, and on his right shoulder sits a butterfly with golden tipped wings. Somewhere in the distance, in what feels like another world, a dream within a dream, the blue and pink marshmallow creatures are trying to reach him, their little hats bobbing as they bounce over clouds. But the scarlet presence is looming closer, toying with the buttons on his red jacket. Open or closed, it mouths through the glass. The butterfly flaps and the snake slithers, its purple scales gleaming, waiting for Herb to notice the fresh set of numbers along its back. As Herb closes his eyes, he finds himself at an unfamiliar crossroads. One path stretches away in soft, gentle hues. It feels familiar and safe. He can see the marshmallow creatures playing in the distance, their hats bobbing as they bound through a pastel-tinted world of sunlit clouds. They wag their tails, tweak their mustaches, urging him to join them. But they are fading, their edges blurring. In the opposite direction, shadows twist into deeper, richer colors: purple, red, gold. The air sparks with energy that Herb can't see, and the red-suited man stands, waiting, his smirk widening as he temptingly holds his jacket open, revealing an array of numbers and equations. Herb rubs his eyes, looks again in each direction. Herb is compelled by something unfathomable, but he thinks he understands. At his task, Herb works feverishly, head down. He is focused on completing the spreadsheet for Geraldine. By lunchtime, he has succeeded in his task. Geraldine is happy. She pats the papers on her desk fondly, like a favorite pet. She'll look at them over the weekend, she tells Herb. She trusts him to have done a good job. We rejoin Herbert Truelove the following morning. It is Saturday. His tousled head emerges from beneath the bedclothes, and he greets the weekend with a yawn, blinking at the light creeping between the gap in his thin bedroom curtains. He has slept well, remarkably well, in fact. It has been the best night's sleep Herb has had in a very long time. Do not step on the blue. Obsessions are insidious. They take root in the mind like a silent poison, creeping into every thought and distorting our perception of reality. They tug at us like an unseen current, pulling us away from the shore of reason, dragging us into dark waters where escape becomes a distant memory. Slowly, they drive us toward reckless decisions, choices that harm not only ourselves, but ripple outward, touching everyone we care about. Norman Sykes walked the coastal road, the sea stretching endlessly beside him. The soft murmur of the waves was a lullaby, hypnotic and soothing. As he passed a weathered sign, something stopped him. He took a few steps back, brushed a stray lock of hair from his eyes, and read it again. Do not step on the blue. That's odd. It usually says, "Do not step on the grass," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. His gaze wandered instinctively toward the sea. Countless tangerine peels floated aimlessly on the surface, moving in lazy, slow circles. His breath caught. Then he woke with a jolt, his heart thudding violently in his chest. The same dream. Again, at 50, Norman had spent much of his life trapped in the clutches of obsession. He twisted door locks over and over, checking them again and again until certainty, that cruel illusion of control, settled in. There were mornings when he turned back mid-commute to ensure he hadn't left something behind, arriving late to work, to appointments, perpetually out of sync. But none of his compulsions held the weight of this fixation that had sprouted from a dream. It wasn't fear. It wasn't terror, but for reasons beyond his grasp. It consumed him. Without thinking, he began avoiding anything blue. His favorite navy suit, long tucked in the back of the closet, was now hidden away. The blue blankets he once loved were packed into storage. He even took down paintings that had a hint of blue, as if erasing the color would free him. But the dream did not relent. One evening, as he mentally catalogued every trace of blue still clinging to his life, his eyes fell on his reflection. And there they were, his deep, piercing blue eyes staring back at him. Once they had drawn people in, captivated them. Now they repulsed him. A few hours later, Norman walked out of the ophthalmologist's office, his new black contact lenses hiding his gaze. He then bought a pair of brown-tinted sunglasses to dull the sky's unrelenting blue. It helped. A little. Blue was fading from his waking world, but it still haunted his dreams. The nightmares continued, night after night. One day, exhaustion took hold of him. His legs trembled under the weight of sleepless nights. He found a bench at the edge of a park, collapsed onto it, and checked the time on his phone. He should have been at work hours ago. His eyes were sore, aching from lack of rest, from the black contact lenses that felt like foreign objects against his eyes, pressing into his very soul. He hadn't taken them out in days, and the constant pain was a reminder of the obsession that had consumed him. He had always believed control was the answer. If he could just manage his thoughts, his actions, he could maintain order. The faint echoes of his dream lingered. The blue, the tangerines, the sea, strange but familiar, all-consuming. He walked on, each step heavier than the last. Shops, people, the noise of the city, it all passed him by. He was lost, trapped inside his own thoughts, unable to escape. At a street corner, he saw a vendor with a cart piled high with tangerines. His chest tightened. The sight of them made his skin crawl. He couldn't breathe. Without thinking, he rushed forward, his foot swinging violently to kick the cart over. The tangerines spilled everywhere, rolling onto the street. He heard the vendor shout in anger, but Norman didn't care. He had to escape. Days bled into nights, and still he refused to sleep. It was the only way to avoid the chaos in his head. Then one morning, as he drove to work, exhaustion gnawed at him. His eyes burned, both from lack of sleep and the contact lenses that hadn't been removed in days. The pain was unbearable. He stopped at a red light, gripping the wheel, rubbing his aching eyes. Behind him, impatient horns blared. He assumed the light had turned green. Half blind, he pressed the gas pedal. His foot felt heavy, disconnected, as if it didn't belong to him. The world before him seemed to warp and bend, the street stretching out like a mirage. It happened too quickly for him to react. He never saw the van, brimming with tangerines, rounding the corner, nor did he realize the honking wasn't for him. The driver of the van swerved violently, trying to avoid him. But it was too late. The collision was brutal. Norman didn't even have time to brace himself. The crash threw him back in his seat, the airbag bursting in his face with a deafening pop. His head rang, his vision blurred, but it didn't matter. His mind was elsewhere. Tangerines exploded onto the pavement, tumbling into the sea. They bobbed weightlessly on the water's surface, like fragments of his dream. Somehow real. A motorcycle became entangled in the crash. Its rider hurled onto the counter of a small paint shop. Norman barely registered the chaos around him. It was too much. A bucket of paint flew through the air, landing in the grassy park nearby, right beside a sign that Norman had passed countless times before. A sticker on the bucket read, "Blue." The sign split in two, crashing to the ground next to the bucket. A shattered reminder of everything Norman had been avoiding. It had never made sense before, but now it felt like an undeniable truth. Had anyone been there to read it, they would have seen the warning. Do not step on the blue, colorless heart. Set your story in a world that has lost all color. Colorless Heart by Lucy Apatow. Marie roused from sleep in the double bed inside the Paris Hilton Hotel. She sank into the comfort of the silky sheets and the fresh fabric smell. A smile splashed across her face, unable to open her eyes just yet. Freedom at last. Just her. No one else. No jumping on eggshells. Not being caught off guard. No secrets. No lies. Just Marie. No other soul in this room. Away from him. But it wasn't only about liberation. It was about protection. Keeping her loved ones safe. She had to keep them alive. And this was the only way. Freedom for herself, but separation from her loved ones. But that one person foremost in her brain. Salvatore. Marie had recently attended a gun range and learned how to fire a gun, just in case. She never knew when she might need to use it. It was about protection. The alarm on her mobile phone jerked her fully awake. A yawn filtered through as she slowly opened her eyes and spotted her phone on the dull black bedside table that had been brown yesterday. The white cushions that had been hues of purple. The black curtains that had been taupe. The ash-black carpet beneath the bed that had been gray. And the black sky through a gap in the window curtain that had been blue. No more blue skies. No more shades other than black and white. The world had lost its color. Marie's breath quickened as her heart palpitated. She rose from bed and rubbed her eyes hard. It had to be her eyes. Had she suddenly become colorblind? Where were all the bright, vibrant colors when it was what she needed? She shut, then opened her eyes, but nothing changed. Her world was drab, colorless, soulless. Her shoulders slumped over. Her head bowed. A slow chill ran up and down her spine. Curiosity peaked. Her skin reddened and turned hot. She had no choice but to be here in this colorless world. What had happened overnight to turn her entire world into a shroud of darkness with only black and white in its midst? Marie wandered outside the hotel, lost in a world where she knew no one. She had left Melbourne to make a fresh start in Paris, so nobody would find her. So he couldn't find her. She couldn't believe having woken up in a with shades of gray and black blocking her view of natural color, light, and even shades of gray. A bench with a view of the River Seine looked inviting as she made her way over, put her bag down, and stared at the calm ripples with a view of the majestic Eiffel Tower. Sailing boats anchored in the water, bunched up trees, and riders swinging their arms inside canoes. The wind scraped her face in the winter. Nothing but black and white. Marie flashed back to her former life, back home where she worked as an interior designer, married to a man she didn't love, and friends who would most likely understand her escape. Yesterday, her world was dark, but today, after she awoke, it became darker, grittier, and scarier. Did this lack of color mean something? Could she no longer design with color to refresh old homes or design new ones if she wanted to start over in France? She had not rung anyone except her best friend Helena about her sudden escape for their own protection. With a call from a burner phone, she announced her safe arrival. "Do you have color? Or has the world changed?" Helena replied. What are you talking about? The things in the world. They're in black and white, Helena. I woke up this morning, and nothing was in color. No blues, browns, pinks, purple, yellows, or any color. All gone. Is Melbourne the same? Don't be silly, Marie. We still have color. Have you become colorblind? Had your eyes checked? You couldn't have become colorblind in an instant. Go get them tested. Oh, and please stay safe. I don't know when I'll call you next. You know how he is. He could be tracking this conversation, even if it's on a burner phone. I love you, Marie. And I'm glad you're safe now. One day, we'll be together again. Marie fought back tears after ending the call. She would miss her loved ones, but she still didn't get what was going on. Was she the crazy one? Or did only Paris lose its color? With a sigh, Marie rose and made her way back to the hotel, knowing she'd have to find herself permanent residence. As she crossed the wide road, a towering man brushed her shoulder. Oh, sorry. He locked eyes with her and walked ahead of her on the other side of the road. His broad shoulders and black eyes made her shudder, stopping in his tracks. I have a message to give you. She angled her head. Who are you? Here, take this, he said. She retrieved the note. He watched her. Who the hell was this guy? And why was he making her nervous? Who are you? I'm just the messenger, lady. Read the note. Who sent you? He inched his way closer. Benny did. Now read the note. No. Not again. He found her. Would this bastard ever leave her alone? With a shuddering breath, she unfolded the note, her hands shaking, and the back of her neck sweating. Bits of her skin prickled. What was this? She had to be dreaming as she read the note. Her vision blurred, as if the words weren't real. The threat wasn't real. Meet me in front of the Louvre tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp, or someone you love dies. The same old threats again. How did he find me? The man bared his crooked teeth with a smile. He swaggered off into the distance. It wasn't over. It never would be. The next morning, Marie paced her steps towards the Louvre, a queue that was a mile long. She wondered if anyone would ever reach the entrance to the museum. The glass panels of the building distracted her from the enemy she was about to meet. Each step drew her closer to the devil. When would it end? Her breath hitched as she stepped on uneven ground, razor-sharp pain cutting into her lower back as she fought the gust of frozen wind. She had to free herself. But how? He would always find her, threaten her, obsess over her, and abuse her. She'd been abused for 3 torturous years. Storm clouds brewed when Marie drew closer to the swarms of people. It was almost 9 o'clock, and passers-by stared at her as if she as an alien. Was it obvious she was heading towards her death chamber? To her dreaded foe? A cold caress at the back of her neck made her freeze in her spot. She turned. It was him. Benny. In all his wealthy glamour, the bastard wore a black tie, black buttoned-up suit jacket over a black cashmere jumper with black pleated pants over Italian leather shoes. He smelled rich. "Follow me," he said, as he prodded her towards an unknown destination. They walked in silence as his intermittent glares unnerved her. The squeeze of his arm draped through hers, leaving bruises, but she said nothing. His pinch at the back of her neck made her flinch, but she said nothing. The push and pull of her hair strands made her want to cry out, but she didn't. Hidden pain to display her fake strength. When finally, she sat down outside the cafe with its outdoor setting, he ordered hot drinks and croissants. No one does what you did and gets away with it. She swallowed, her lip trembling as she stared past him. Please don't hurt him, he chuckled and threw his head back, his stained white teeth prominent. Flicking a cigarette over an ashtray, he tilted his head. You're lucky I love you, Marie. If I didn't love you, you'd be dead by now. But you ever try something like this again, and I won't hesitate to slash your throat, feed your decrepit body to the fish in the Seine River. Got that? She nodded, a black spot clouding her vision. Puffs of smoke floated towards her and made her cough. Not that he cared. He was a narcissist. He retrieved his phone. Watch this. No, I mean business, Marie. I don't blow damn smoke up my arse. She gripped the phone and saw him, tied up to a chair, gagged, beaten, tortured. Two black eyes, bruising across his cheek, haggard, frail, head hanging down low, as if giving up. No, don't give up, my love. Never give up. A gasp of air grounded her. Rattling teeth must have made her look scared in front of him. Is he all right? He scoffed. That depends on you. You put 1 foot wrong. Leave me again, and he dies. Only when we're safely back home, he'll be released. The waiter returned with the croissants and hot coffees. Sorry about the croissants. They're a little overcooked, but these are more their natural yellow. Marie winced. But those croissants are black, not yellow. He waved a hand. Don't mind her. She's the constant joker. But no worries. We'll have them as they are. The waiter nodded. Black, you say? Benny glared. Leave us. The waiter walked off with a curious gaze. He turned to her. What is wrong with you? Can't you see the color of the food? How could he not see what she was seeing? What was wrong with her? No, everything is black and white. I don't see color anymore. He laughed. Are you telling me you don't? You see the brown coffees, the blue ashtray, the beige tablecloth, my red tie, my dashing blue eyes? Her heart missed a beat as she gritted her teeth. No, I lost sight of color this morning. I woke up like this. Everything is black and white. Interesting, he said. Marie looked past him and spotted the man she'd seen earlier. The one who had given her the note. He was standing by a lamppost, sculling a bottle of beer. Why was he around? He must have been Benny's bodyguard, in case she made a run for it. Marie and Benny stepped inside her hotel room. He pushed her towards the wardrobe. Start packing. Our flight leaves in a few hours. Okay then. She pushed aside her floating tears and steeled herself by pulling out her suitcase from underneath the bed, unzipping it. As if in a surreal world, she pulled clothing off hangers and threw them into the suitcase. She was going back to her prison, away from the love of her life. If only she had been stronger a few years ago, when he had framed her ex-boyfriend, Salvatore, for murder, just so he could be free from prison. She was forced to marry him. Marriage to Benny in exchange for Salvatore's freedom. She had never explained why she'd broken up with him. Had to convince Salvatore she no longer loved him. It had cut her insides, but she had to keep him safe. Salvatore had not given up on her and found ways for them to meet secretly. But Benny always found out about their secret rendezvous. He had put plans in place, made the worst things happen. Benny involved in Salvatore crashing his car, ruining his reputation in business, injuring his friend with a beating by his henchmen, and almost killing him at least twice. Now Salvatore was threatened with death. What more could the creep do? I'm having a shower, he said. She sat on the bed. How could she go back with him? But she had no choice when Salvatore would die if she didn't. Benny's phone lay on the bedside table. Curious, she picked it up and found his recording. Salvatore was still tied to the chair, still tortured and broken. But wait, something was weird about this video. The actions were the same. His movements repeated in a cycle, as if it was on a loop. This wasn't her true love life. This was a fake video. It had to be. Could Salvatore have arranged this? Outsmarted Benny again? She smiled to herself. Now she had a chance to do something. Fight him. Hurt him. But no, she wasn't a violent person and had morals. Nothing like Benny. What could she do? Run away again? But Benny might pursue Salvatore and never stop. He would never stop finding her until his own death. She knew that. So what could she do? She could never reason with a crazy person. A knock on the door made her jolt in her spot. It could be anyone. Her heart racing, she slowly opened the door and flinched when the man from earlier pushed past her. "Where's Benny? What are you doing here?" the man whispered in her ear. "Listen, Salvatore will set you free. Get out of here," she swallowed, her vision blurring. "What?" The back of her neck sweated as one ear listened in on Benny in the shower. "No time to talk. Leave. Now. We'll take care of this." She was right. It was a fake recording. He'd escaped. Where is he? The man swung the gun in his hand, scanning past her. "He's closer than you think. Go now." Her heart soared, and a spot of color flashed in her vision. But only fleetingly. It turned black and white again. "What in hell is going on here?" Benny grasped something from his back pocket. "Why are you here?" The man shrugged until reaching his side pocket and shooting towards Benny, who shifted to the side, the bullet grazing his cheek. But Benny pulled out his own gun and took aim. The gun hit the man square in the chest. He fell back against the door with a thud. Marie quaked. It was over. No love, no freedom. "You will never leave me." "Never, Marie. Get that. Nobody will ever take you away from me. Grab your things. Hurry up." He shifted the strange man's body to the bathroom, blood pouring out of him like a tap. When he returned, Benny shoved her aside and flung the remainder of her clothes into the suitcase. "Now zip it up and let's leave pronto." He sat on the sofa and scrolled through his phone. A call to one of his stupid thugs. Goosebumps swarmed like insects over her arms as a dull ache at the back of her neck made her queasy. This had to stop, slowly zipping up the baggage. A shuffling sound underneath the bed made her think she was hearing things. But no. She spotted a shoe protruding from the corner as someone glided further to the edge near the bedside table. Salvatore appeared and placed a finger across his lips, hefting a gun. She moved towards Benny, pulled the suitcase off the bed, and retrieved her bag. "I'm ready." Salvatore flung himself in the open and approached Benny with an aim of his gun. "Put your hands up. Now." Benny flinched. "You have a death wish, don't you? You might have got away from my men, but you'll never win this war. I will fight you to the death, Benny. I don't care if I die, so long as Marie goes free. Free from your dungeon. Free from your psychopathic world. You loser." He faced Marie. "Go now. I'll take care of this." She shook her head. "We fight with our hands. Fight to the death." Benny scoffed. "Fine with me." He shoved his pistol inside his back pocket and took a fighting stance while Salvatore did the same. "No, please, Salvatore. Just go. I can't be with you. Benny's my husband. I'm going back to Melbourne with him. Please leave." "No, Marie, enough is enough." Benny threw the first punch, then another and another, until he went down. He gouged one of Salvatore's eyes and flung his head hard against the carpet. Marie moved. "No, Benny, stop. I'll come with you. Please stop." Benny softened, giving Salvatore the chance to pound into Benny with a blow to the kidney, and then a swift kick in the leg. Lamps overturned, magazines tumbled in the air, and the coffee table shifted. Benny kicked him on the side of his abdomen, and he keeled over. She had to do something. But what? Benny reached for something in his pants pocket. A flick knife. No. He was going to break the rules. Not on her watch. Salvatore attempted to rise when Benny stepped forward. A smirk plastered over his face. He wandered over to him when the knife swung in the air. Marie reached for his back pocket, pulled out the gun, and aimed. "Stop, or I'll shoot," he scoffed. "You don't have the guts. Don't even know guns." Benny ignored her, about to stab Salvatore in the throat. Marie pulled the trigger and shot him twice in the stomach. The knife fell, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. Blood seeped onto the carpet, and she watched and waited for the life force to draw out of him. 3 years of hell. 3 years of watching over her shoulder. 3 years of fearing the lives of her loved ones. Walking quietly on eggshells. Those days were over as the rotten apple drew his last breath. Salvatore shuffled towards her and hugged her. "I love you, Marie. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from him. You've always protected me." She beamed. "I love you too, Salvatore." She savored the gentle caress of her lover's strong arms around her waist. Her eyes shifted, her surroundings vibrating with color. Nor more colorless world, monochromatic. This story includes depictions of mental health and death. There is nothing graphic, but these topics are touched on. I had never been quite fond of Eve. As her psychiatric nurse, the buoy who kept her from drowning in an ocean of madness, I should have made an effort to respect my patient. I should have, and yet I couldn't. It was unbearable to deal with a soul so far gone, someone so dreadfully insane. Nonetheless, Evelyn Barrett was still mine to care for, my own burden. It was odd to dwell on the fact that someone so young, barely even 18 to be exact, could mentally fall down such a slippery slope. Eve was admitted to the sanitarium around 2 months ago, following her breakdown at school. According to her classmates, Eve had never been social. She tended to keep to herself when given the choice. And while this was not abnormal behavior for a teenage girl, it had always been different with Eve. Well, it had grown to become different. Students began reporting incidents involving Eve. They would hear her muttering to herself in class, her words unintelligible, but her whispers crazed. They would hear her sobbing in bathroom stalls. Her teachers noticed her grades slipping. Eve would write ominous messages on her papers. and she would draw horrific drawings in her notebook. Drawings of characters plucked straight from horror movies, monsters. Though her behavior was abnormal, Eve caused no problems. She remained silent, which was nothing out of the ordinary. She basked in the endless insanity of her paranoid, twisted mind. But at that time, no one was aware of how truly twisted it was. After months of containment, Eve suddenly exploded. She jumped up in the middle of class and shrieked, screaming bloody murder. Accounts of the story from her classmates explained that Eve screamed, "Leave me alone," dozens of times. According to the witnesses, Eve was not talking to a specific person, not one that anyone could see anyway. Her teachers restrained her and subdued her screams. Her behavior was, according to her classmates, purely and utterly horrifying, insane. And so, I was stuck with Evelyn Barrett. I tried to build connections with my patients, and usually, I was successful. Over my years as a nurse, I liked to think that my psychological support helped my patients heal. It did. There was no doubt about it. I did my job well until Eve came along. For some odd reason, I could not break through with Eve, break into her subconscious and heal her fragile mind. Whenever I tried to talk to her, she would do one of two things. Either she would completely block me out, or she would scream nonsense at me. In any case, neither method was beneficial in the slightest. The past 2 months had consisted of pointless therapy sessions and no progress whatsoever. I couldn't help but feel sorry for the poor girl. As I walked into my tidy office, I pushed out a sigh and slumped into my armchair. Eve was scheduled to meet with me at any second, and to be quite honest, I was dreading our session. Up until now, my day had been calm. My serenity was about to be interrupted simply by being in the presence of the crazed child. 3 knocks on the door was all it took. My spine straightened, and I felt the muscles in my neck tighten. My automatic physical response whenever Eve was near. The creaking of the door disturbed my therapeutic silence, and as I watched a caretaker escort Eve through the doorway, a queasy feeling began to form in my gut. Eve seemed on edge today, more on edge than normal. Her long cascade of honey blonde hair was ruffled, as though she couldn't be bothered to run a comb through it. Her face was a sickly shade of white. The shadows casted upon her face complemented the lack of life within her frozen, gray eyes. Eyes that hardly looked like eyes at all. She looked dreadful. The caretaker made sure that Eve settled comfortably on the couch before taking her leave. Nevertheless, Eve looked nothing but uncomfortable. She brought her knees to her chest and hugged them tightly, her body resembling something of a ball. Her hands shook while her feet tapped on the cushion over and over again. It was easy to assume that nerves had Eve in a chokehold. "How are you doing today, Eve?" I asked the girl. my voice visibly annoyed. I didn't care enough to put on a facade for her. Eve wasn't fond of me, as far as I could tell. It was obvious by the way her eyes ever so slightly cut into my face, as though they were two honed knives. Regardless, the feeling was mutual, and so treating one another this way had become routine. Usually when I asked her a question, Eve ignored it completely. I assumed she would simply ignore me by the way her gaze dug into my skin, and so I wasted no time before pulling out my notebook. Lazily, I jotted down a note. "Silence," I wrote. Nothing out of the ordinary, until I heard a raspy breath emerge from her mouth. "He's going to kill me soon," Eve muttered, her voice barely a whisper. I could hardly comprehend her words. Her empty eyes widened as her fingernails dug into her pants. The girl rocked back and forth in a crazed manner, almost as though she truly feared for her life. I, for one, believed that Eve was bananas, but as her nurse, I could not disregard such an alarming phrase. "Who? Who's going to kill you?" I asked, as calmly as possible. Though I knew that Eve was completely mad, I knew that she was. Her words still managed to send a chill through my bones. Eve disregarded my words for a moment, her mind unable to flee from whatever eternal nightmare it was trapped in. Her gaze remained on the ground and focused on anything but me. Seconds ticked by. Minutes. Finally, Eve's eyes snapped to mine, somehow more frantic than before. "He's taking over my life, the world around me, everything," she snapped loudly, her sharp words making me flinch. Her body recoiled after her outburst, and she scrunched back into her ball with a shaken expression on her face. "He's going to kill me soon," she repeated. "I just know it." With a sigh, I set my notebook aside and leaned forward. This wasn't the first time that Eve had acted up during a session, but this was the first time that she seemed so sure. So sure about the fact that something was bothering her. I said, "You are safe here, Eve. Nothing is going to kill you. This is all in your mind, okay? You're okay." "No, please, Debbie. I am not insane. This is real," Eve persisted. Hearing her say my name was odd. She had never addressed me before, and until now, I did not know that she even knew my name. He's out to get me. The Shadow Man. He's the Shadow Man?" I repeated incredulously. Despite Eve's urgency, I did not believe her words. Her crazed, perplexing words. She had never once opened up to me like this, and so I had no reason to believe that she was telling the truth now. Instead of dismissing her comment, I wanted to dig further. It was my job, after all. "Who is he?" Eve shuddered, as though a gust of icy wind had blown through the room. "I don't know." She paused abruptly and locked eyes with me. "But he takes things from me. He steals them. Despite my confusion, I played into her claim. What does he take from you? Eve blinked multiple times. Color. Color? The color that I see. The color that she sees. What does that mean, Eve? I asked, and anxiety grasped my brain. Her answer, while strange, was also oddly specific. And something about that was off-putting. Color blindness. Was that what Eve was hinting at? Were colors fading from her vision? I took my assumption and rolled with it. Does your family have a history of color blindness? That sounded about right. Perhaps Eve was losing her sense of color, and she was freaking out about it. That wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary, but it was obviously nothing to go crazy about. No, it's not color blindness. He takes the color from me. She snapped again, her expression flushing with maroon fury. You're wrong. I am not crazy. You think I am, but I'm not. I'm not. Suddenly, Eve was on her feet, marching across the room to my desk. I sat up out of habit and hesitated. Eve seemed angry. Was she going to attack me? Grab for a weapon? I decided to take no chances, and I, too, rose to my feet. I turned to face Eve, only to find that she was inspecting various objects on my desk. Colored pens, Post-its, my computer. It's all black and white. Everything. She picked up a lime green Post-it and shook it in her hand. I can't tell what color this is. He stole it from me. It's gone. It's all gone. He's gonna kill me once everything is gone. Eve, calm down. No, I can't. Eve paused abruptly when her eyes fell upon a particular object on my desk. Her mouth gaped open as she snatched the object, inspecting it in awe. I almost reached for her arm and demanded for her to put the object down, but I restrained myself. Eve held the card that my daughter had made for me years ago. On the front of the card was a drawing of a rainbow, colored messily with crayon. My daughter had handcrafted the card when I fell terribly ill, and I believe that the card itself had cured me. I had kept it lying on my desk all these years, and the messy rainbow had been my constant reminder that color can supply us with life and wellness. And now, as Eve's shaky hands grasped the card, I fought the urge to snatch it from her. This card was precious to me. I couldn't risk her ruining it. It's colorful. She gasped in awe, her eyes absorbing the card, as though its sparkles were emitting from it. I can see the rainbow. He hasn't stolen it from me. Suddenly, Eve's guard was up once again, and she clenched the card against her chest. I winced as the paper grew crinkled in her strong grasp. I need to keep this card with me. I can't let the Shadow Man steal it. It's all I have left. Protectively, I shook my head. My deranged patient could not be trusted with my precious card, my personal gift from my daughter. No, I don't think that's... Debbie, please, Eve urged. For one moment, the desperation in her voice made her sound sane. This is life or death. I am not insane. He is going to kill me. I can't let him steal the color from this. It's all I have. Please. Hesitance gripped me by the throat, and I opened my mouth to speak. Nothing came out. Eve stared me down, and her empty eyes were suddenly not empty anymore. They weren't lifeless. Instead, they seemed brighter, filled with life, with hope. I had never seen this side of Evelyn Barrett before. I stuttered. Nothing is going to happen to you, Eve. You don't need this card. But as I said these words, even I heard the doubt within my voice. I felt that I would regret keeping the card. Perhaps if I gave Eve the card to borrow, she would feel more at ease. Perhaps this card was the key to break through into Eve's mind. Perhaps she wasn't so far gone. Reluctantly, I backed away from the girl. Just keep it for now. That's fine, I sighed. Eve's eyes sparkled, and a hint of a smile pricked at her lips. She looked normal, as though she didn't live in a sanitarium. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, she repeated hastily. Just return it to me when you no longer need it. Of course. Eve's mannerism was completely different than it had been when she first arrived. As she continued inspecting the card in awe, I couldn't help but smile. Perhaps I could help her. Perhaps the Eve that I was not quite fond of was fading, and a new girl was coming to light. Either way, I felt the start of something new. Hope. The next day, I was scheduled to check up on Eve. The feeling of apprehension that usually sat in the pit of my stomach was gone. Ever since our session yesterday, I had faith that my patient was healing, truly healing. I walked with optimism, hopeful that my relationship with Eve was growing stronger. One of the best feelings as a therapist was knowing that you were of aid to your patient, that you were able to dig them out of a great hole. It felt rewarding, fulfilling. I approached Eve's door and knocked gently so as not to startle her. Though she was in the process of healing, she was still fragile. I waited for a few seconds before knocking again. Eve did not respond, and I heard no noise from inside the room. The queasy feeling in my stomach returned. I knocked louder. No response. To accompany my uneasiness, an alarm resonated through my skull. Something was wrong. Skeptically, I pushed open the door and took a quick glance around the room. It didn't take long for me to spot her. Eve. She was sprawled out on the ground, unconscious. Without hesitation, I crouched on the floor next to her, shaking her shoulder. Eve? Eve? I blurted. There was no response. She didn't move. No, Eve. Wake up. My chest felt light as I reached for Eve's delicate wrist. There was no pulse. In fact, her skin was a block of ice. Oh my God, Eve. Numbly, my eyes trailed over towards her hand. Her fingers limply held a little slip of paper with a rainbow on it. The card that my daughter made. The next few moments were a blur. My body began moving on its own, while my mind remained stuck on the image of Eve's body on the floor. Her still, pale body, as I unconsciously grabbed the card out of Eve's limp hand and shoved it in my pocket. I heard muffled voices entering the bedroom, scrambling around me, asking me what had happened. I didn't process the question, couldn't process it. All of my senses were honed in on Eve, on the fact that she was dead. Nurses surrounded Eve and I, and before I knew it, I was laying on the ground too, losing consciousness. I felt as though I was floating in outer space, and it became a struggle to breathe. My vision was fading into a deep darkness, and everyone near me was fading. The nurses, Eve, everything was fading. I was grasping onto nothing. But no, something was still there, hidden in the corner of my periphery. Though it blended within the darkness overtaking my mind, it wasn't completely hidden. I saw it. Him, though hardly visible, I was still able to make out the silhouette of a large man standing in the corner of the room. He hardly looked like a man at all, really. As far as I could tell, he had no hair, no face. He looked like an apparition by the way he blended into the wall behind him. He was the absence of everything, a void where light should have been. It was impossible to make out the distinct features of the man. But even with a blurry glimpse, I knew that the man was something of a sinister entity. Evil. As I blacked out, two words repeatedly rang in my head. They reverberated deeply, their consonants sounding of menacing death knells. It was all I heard as I lost consciousness. Shadow man, shadow man, shadow man. I woke up with a start on the couch in my office. My thoughts immediately trailed to what I last could remember. They trailed to Eve. She had died. Was that all a dream? What if it wasn't? What was the cause of her death? She was healthy, physically at least. Nothing made sense. The shadowed silhouette grazed my thoughts, and a chill fell over my body. I must have been imagining the man. I had not been in the right state of mind, nearly on the brink of passing out. It was an illusion. It had to be. So why was it that Eve had also been hallucinating a shadow man? A lump in my pocket alerted my senses, and I reached for whatever was inside. My fingers lifted out a piece of crinkled paper, scrunched up in a ball. The card. It was ruined, shoved in my pocket like a piece of trash as my eyes welled up with tears. I unfolded the paper and examined the rainbow on the front. I blinked multiple times and wiped away the tears from my eyes. Something wasn't right. My vision was playing games with me as I stared at the card, at the sloppy rainbow on the front. My heart dropped as I realized something. Eve wasn't crazy. The rainbow on the front of the card was no longer drawn in colorful crayon. It was purely black and white, colorless heart. Set your story in a world that has lost all color. Colorless Heart by Lucy Apatow. Marie roused from sleep in the double bed inside the Paris Hilton Hotel. She sank into the comfort of the silky sheets and the fresh fabric smell. A smile splashed across her face, unable to open her eyes just yet. Freedom at last. Just her. No one else. No jumping on eggshells. Not being caught off guard. No secrets. No lies. Just Marie. No other soul in this room. Away from him. But it wasn't only about liberation. It was about protection. Keeping her loved ones safe. She had to keep them alive. And this was the only way. Freedom for herself, but separation from her loved ones. But that one person foremost in her brain. Salvatore. Marie had recently attended a gun range and learned how to fire a gun, just in case. She never knew when she might need to use it. It was about protection. The alarm on her mobile phone jerked her fully awake. A yawn filtered through as she slowly opened her eyes and spotted her phone on the dull black bedside table that had been brown yesterday. The white cushions that had been hues of purple. The black curtains that had been taupe. The ash black carpet beneath the bed that had been gray. And the black sky through a gap in the window curtain that had been blue. No more blue skies. No more shades other than black and white. The world had lost its color. Marie's breath quickened as her heart palpitated. She rose from bed and rubbed her eyes hard. It had to be her eyes. Had she suddenly become colorblind? Where were all the bright, vibrant colors when it was what she needed? She shut, then opened her eyes, but nothing changed. Her world was drab, colorless, soulless. Her shoulders slumped over. Her head bowed. A slow chill ran up and down her spine. Curiosity peaked. Her skin reddened and turned hot. She had no choice but to be here in this colorless world. What had happened overnight to turn her entire world into a shroud of darkness with only black and white in its midst? Then Marie wandered outside the hotel, lost in a world where she knew no one. She had left Melbourne to make a fresh start in Paris so nobody would find her. So he couldn't find her. She couldn't believe having woken up in a fog, with shades of gray and black blocking her view of natural color, light, and even shades of gray. A bench with a view of the River Seine looked inviting as she made her way over, put her bag down, and stared at the calm ripples, with a view of the majestic Eiffel Tower, sailing boats anchored in the water, bunched up trees, and riders swinging their arms inside canoes. The wind scraped her face in the winter. Nothing but black and white. Marie flashed back to her former life, back home, where she worked as an interior designer, married to a man she didn't love, and friends who would most likely understand her escape. Yesterday, her world was dark, but today, after she awoke, it became darker, grittier, and scarier. Did this lack of color mean something? Could she no longer design with color to refresh old homes or design new ones if she wanted to start over in France? She had not wrung anyone except her best friend, Helena, about her sudden escape for their own protection. With a call from a burner phone, she announced her safe arrival. "Do you have color? Or has the world changed?" Helena replied. "What are you talking about? The things in the world. They're in black and white, Helena. I woke up this morning and nothing was in color. No blues, browns, pinks, purples, yellows, or any color. All gone. Is Melbourne the same? Don't be silly, Marie. We still have color. Have you become colorblind? Had your eyes checked? You couldn't have become colorblind in an instant. Go get them tested. Oh, and please stay safe. I don't know when I'll call you next. You know how he is. He could be tracking this conversation, even if it's on a burner phone. I love you, Marie, and I'm glad you're safe now. One day, we'll be together again." Marie fought back tears after ending the call. She would miss her loved ones, but she still didn't get what was going on. Was she the crazy one, or did only Paris lose its color? With a sigh, Marie rose and made her way back to the hotel, knowing she'd have to find herself permanent residence. As she crossed the wide road, a towering man brushed her shoulder. "Oh, sorry." He locked eyes with her and walked ahead of her on the other side of the road. His broad shoulders and black eyes made her shudder, stopping in his tracks. "I have a message to give you." She angled her head. "Who are you?" "Here, take this," he said. She retrieved the note. He watched her. Who the hell was this guy? And why was he making her nervous? "Who are you?" "I'm just the messenger, lady. Read the note." "Who sent you?" He inched his way closer. "Benny did. Now read the note." "No. Not again." He found her. Would this bastard ever leave her alone? With a shuddering breath, she unfolded the note, her hands shaking and the back of her neck sweating. Bits of her skin prickled. What was this? She had to be dreaming as she read the note. her vision blurred, as if the words weren't real. The threat wasn't real. Meet me in front of the Louvre tomorrow morning, 900 a.m. sharp, or someone you love dies. The same old threats again. How did he find me? The man bared his crooked teeth with a smile. He swaggered off into the distance. It wasn't over. It never would be. The next morning, Marie paced her steps towards the Louvre, a queue that was a mile long. She wondered if anyone would ever reach the entrance to the museum. The glass panels of the building distracted her from the enemy she was about to meet. Each step drew her closer to the devil. When would it end? Her breath hitched as she stepped on uneven ground, razor-sharp pain cutting into her lower back as she fought the gust of frozen wind. She had to free herself, but how? He would always find her, threaten her, obsess over her, and abuse her. She'd been abused for 3 torturous years. Storm clouds brewed when Marie drew closer to the swarms of people. It was almost 9 o'clock, and passers-by stared at her as if she as an alien. Was it obvious she was heading towards her death chamber, to her dreaded foe? A cold caress at the back of her neck made her freeze in her spot. She turned. It was him, Benny. In all his wealthy glamour, the bastard wore a black tie, black buttoned-up suit jacket over a black cashmere jumper, with black pleated pants over Italian leather shoes. He smelled rich. "Follow me," he said, as he prodded her towards an unknown destination. They walked in silence as his intermittent glares unnerved her. The squeeze of his arm draped through hers, leaving bruises, but she said nothing. His pinch at the back of her neck made her flinch, but she said nothing. The push and pull of her hair strands made her want to cry out, but she didn't. Hidden pain to display her fake strength. When, finally, she sat down outside the cafe with its outdoor setting, he ordered hot drinks and croissants. No one does what you did and gets away with it. She swallowed, her lip trembling, as she stared past him. "Please don't hurt him," he chuckled and threw his head back, his stained white teeth prominent. Flicking a cigarette over an ashtray, he tilted his head. "You're lucky I love you, Marie. If I didn't love you, you'd be dead by now. But you ever try something like this again, and I won't hesitate to slash your throat. Feed your decrepit body to the fish in the Seine River. Got that?" She nodded, a black spot clouding her vision. Puffs of smoke floated towards her and made her cough. Not that he cared. He was a narcissist. He retrieved his phone. "Watch this. No, I mean business, Marie. I don't blow damn smoke up my arse." She gripped the phone and saw him. tied up to a chair, gagged, beaten, tortured. 2 black eyes, bruising across his cheek, haggard, frail, head hanging down low as if giving up. No, don't give up, my love. Never give up. A gasp of air grounded her. Rattling teeth must have made her look scared in front of him. Is he all right? He scoffed. That depends on you. You put 1 foot wrong. Leave me again, and he dies. Only when we're safely back home, he'll be released. The waiter returned with the croissants and hot coffees. Sorry about the croissants. They're a little overcooked, but these are more their natural yellow. Marie winced. But those croissants are black, not yellow. He waved a hand. Don't mind her. She's the constant joker. But no worries. We'll have them as they are. The waiter nodded. Black, you say? Benny glared. Leave us. The waiter walked off with a curious gaze. He turned to her. What is wrong with you? Can't you see the color of the food? How could he not see what she was seeing? What was wrong with her? No, everything is black and white. I don't see color anymore. He laughed. Are you telling me you see the brown coffees, the blue ashtray, the beige tablecloth, my red tie, my dashing blue eyes? Her heart missed a beat as she gritted her teeth. No, I lost sight of color this morning. I woke up like this. Everything is black and white. Interesting, he said. Marie looked past him and spotted the man she'd seen earlier. The one who had given her the note. He was standing by a lamppost, sculling a bottle of beer. Why was he around? He must have been Benny's bodyguard in case she made a run for it. Marie and Benny stepped inside her hotel room. He pushed her towards the wardrobe. Start packing. Our flight leaves in a few hours. Okay then. She pushed aside her floating tears and steeled herself by pulling out her suitcase from underneath the bed, unzipping it. As if in a surreal world, she pulled clothing off hangers and threw them into the suitcase. She was going back to her prison, away from the love of her life. If only she had been stronger a few years ago, when he had framed her ex-boyfriend, Salvatore, for murder. Just so he could be free from prison, she was forced to marry him. Marriage to Benny in exchange for Salvatore's freedom. She had never explained why she'd broken up with him. Had to convince Salvatore she no longer loved him. It had cut her insides, but she had to keep him safe. Salvatore had not given up on her and found ways for them to meet secretly. But Benny always found out about their secret rendezvous. He had put plans in place, made the worst things happen. Benny involved in Salvatore crashing his car, ruining his reputation in business, injuring his friend with a beating by his henchmen, and almost killing him at least twice. Now Salvatore was threatened with death. What more could the creep do? I'm having a shower, he said. She sat on the bed. How could she go back with him? But she had no choice when Salvatore would die if she didn't. Benny's phone lay on the bedside table. Curious, she picked it up and found his recording. Salvatore was still tied to the chair, still tortured and broken. But wait, something was weird about this video. The actions were the same. His movements repeated in a cycle as if it was on a loop. This wasn't her true love life. This was a fake video. It had to be. Could Salvatore have arranged this? Outsmarted Benny again, she smiled to herself. Now she had a chance to do something. Fight him. Hurt him. But no, she wasn't a violent person and had morals. Nothing like Benny. Nothing. What could she do? Run away again? But Benny might pursue Salvatore and never stop. He would never stop finding her until his own death. She knew that. So what could she do? She could never reason with a crazy person. A knock on the door made her jolt in her spot. It could be anyone. Her heart racing, she slowly opened the door and flinched when the man from earlier pushed past her. "Where's Benny? What are you doing here?" the man whispered in her ear. "Listen, Salvatore will set you free. Get out of here." She swallowed, her vision blurring. What? The back of her neck sweated as one ear listened in on Benny in the shower. "No time to talk. Leave. Now. We'll take care of this." She was right. It was a fake recording. He'd escaped. Where is he? The man swung the gun in his hand, scanning past her. "He's closer than you think. Go now." Her heart soared, and a spot of color flashed in her vision, but only fleetingly. It turned black and white again. What in hell is going on here? Benny grasped something from his back pocket. "Why are you here?" The man shrugged until reaching his side pocket and shooting towards Benny, who shifted to the side, the bullet grazing his cheek. But Benny pulled out his own gun and took aim. The gun hit the man square in the chest. He fell back against the door with a thud. Marie quaked. It was over. No love. No freedom. You will never leave me. Never, Marie. Get that. Nobody will ever take you away from me. Grab your things. Hurry up. He shifted the strange man's body to the bathroom, blood pouring out of him like a tap. When he returned, Benny shoved her aside and flung the remainder of her clothes into the suitcase. "Now zip it up, and let's leave pronto." He sat on the sofa and scrolled through his phone. A call to one of his stupid thugs. Goosebumps swarmed like insects over her arms as a dull ache at the back of her neck made her queasy. This had to stop. Slowly zipping up the baggage. A shuffling sound underneath the bed made her think she was hearing things. But no. She spotted a shoe protruding from the corner as someone glided further to the edge near the bedside table. Salvatore appeared and placed a finger across his lips, hefting a gun. She moved towards Benny, pulled the suitcase off the bed, and retrieved her bag. "I'm ready." Salvatore flung himself in the open and approached Benny with an aim of his gun. "Put your hands up. Now." Benny flinched. "You have a death wish, don't you? You might have got away from my men, but you'll never win this war. I will fight you to the death, Benny. I don't care if I die so long as Marie goes free. Free from your dungeon. Free from your psychopathic world. You loser." He faced Marie. "Go now. I'll take care of this." She shook her head. "We fight with our hands. Fight to the death." Benny scoffed. "Fine with me." He shoved his pistol inside his back pocket and took a fighting stance, while Salvatore did the same. "No, please, Salvatore. Just go. I can't be with you. Benny's my husband. I'm going back to Melbourne with him. Please leave." "No, Marie. Enough is enough." Benny threw the first punch, then another and another, until he went down. He gouged one of Salvatore's eyes and flung his head hard against the carpet. Marie moved. "No, Benny, stop. I'll come with you. Please, stop." Benny softened, giving Salvatore the chance to pound into Benny with a blow to the kidney and then a swift kick in the leg. Lamps overturned, magazines tumbled in the air, and the coffee table shifted. Benny kicked him on the side of his abdomen, and he keeled over. She had to do something. But what? Benny reached for something in his pants pocket. A flick knife. No, no. He was going to break the rules. Not on her watch. Salvatore attempted to rise when Benny stepped forward. A smirk plastered over his face. He wandered over to him when the knife swung in the air. Marie reached for his back pocket, pulled out the gun, and aimed. "Stop, or I'll shoot," he scoffed. "You don't have the guts. Don't even know guns." Benny ignored her, about to stab Salvatore in the throat. Marie pulled the trigger and shot him twice in the stomach. The knife fell, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. Blood seeped onto the carpet, and she watched and waited for the life force to draw out of him. 3 years of hell. 3 years of watching over her shoulder. 3 years of fearing the lives of her loved ones, walking quietly on eggshells. Those days were over as the rotten apple drew his last breath. Salvatore shuffled towards her and hugged her. "I love you, Marie. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from him. You've always protected me." She beamed. "I love you too, Salvatore." She savored the gentle caress of her lover's strong arms around her waist. Her eyes shifted, her surroundings vibrating with color. Nor more colorless world.